YCN segment is brought to you by Echo Communications, a digitally integrated commercial printer.
Welcome back, YCN Sports Talk. Jeremy Stout, Brett Franklin in studio as we transition to the NFL. And the Patriots opener is just a few days away. And as we sit here today, we got some bad news last week. Obviously now everyone knows Patriot Nation, Julian Edelman is out for the season, torn ACL. Devastating blow, but we talked about it. This team has the depth. They have the backup, but nonetheless, tough break for a player who is working so hard and is beloved by everyone in the organization, the fans. Just a tough break.
Yeah, really a tough play where he went down, a non-contact injury there. And yeah, it's a loss, absolutely. I mean, this is the security blanket for Tom Brady. I mean, how many big catches has Edelman had in the postseason? How many big plays just in general? He's a big play-capable guy. And they're going to miss that. And but I do think that there are some pieces they can fit in moving forward. But number 11, they're going to miss. But I just think this year, especially more than in previous years, they have the talent to kind of fill the void there for the season.
Right, and who fills that void? Obviously, we know Brandon Cooks. He's going to be the number one guy. He may have been the number one guy anyway. And then, obviously, Chris Hogan, his second year, he's got a rapport with Brady building up. And then we can't forget Danny Amendola. Does he seem to fill the bulk of the carries or the catches because he's the longest tenured Patriot receiver at this point?
The common answer would be Danny Amendola, but past two seasons hasn't really done much early in the season. Down the stretch, he's been very critical and he's made some big plays. I think it's going to come down to Malcolm Mitchell. I know he's been a little bit banged up here in this preseason. He's had the knee injury, but I think he's a guy, I said on the radio last week, I think he's a big piece to this offense that nobody's really talking about because he was really a guy that the Patriots relied on down the stretch late in that postseason run. Austin Carr, he's a guy that's been mentioned a lot in this preseason. Maybe this now opens up a spot where he can move into that fifth wide receiver role. But I think right now you've got Cooks, you've got Hogan, you've got Malcolm Mitchell, and don't forget number 87, Rob Gronkowski, and a still very viable running back core, which you could have Rex Burkhead if he makes the team, or James White kind of go out into the slot. In Bill Belichick, we trust in trying to figure out the scheme there.
Right, and you kind of touched on it where it wasn't so much the production that Edelman has, it's kind of the big catches or the security blanket or whatever. And Brady kind of touched on that as well earlier this week when he had his radio interview on Monday where he said it's the trust that we've built up to know where he is and he knows what's coming and he knows where to be as opposed to the production. I mean, Brandon Cooks can go out there and he can catch 100 passes and he can score 10, 12 touchdowns. The production isn't going to suffer. But it is those big games when they're on the road and they need a catch that it's going to hurt. But with that being said, they'll make it work. What's the over-under? Does it change anything in your mind? I mean, this team, they had talks of going undefeated. Maybe that was a little too far-fetched, but I could see 14 games. Now, does that kind of say, well, let's pump the brakes? He is a big piece. Maybe it downgrades him a little bit, but still number one seed in the AFC.
Yeah, I don't think it changes too much, Jeremy. I think, honestly, this for the Patriots, maybe a slight bump in the road. I mean, again, I don't want to minimize Julian Edelman going down for the season, but, if this happened last year, okay, then we got some alarms to be sound because then you don't have Gronkowski, then you don't have Julian Edelman.
Right.
But they've got the pieces. They're going to figure it out, and I still think this team is going to be one of the highest scoring offenses in the NFL this year.
Yeah, it seems that their offense is pretty well set with or without Edelman, and I agree with you. Although we don't want to minimize what he does, it can be moved around. The pieces can be moved around.
Again, if it's a different year, then we're worrying. But this year, with the pieces they have, I still think they'll be 14-2, possibly 15-1.
Okay, so what is their biggest weakness? We've talked about how the defensive line has some questions. Linebackers, they picked up some pieces in the offseason. Obviously, Coney Ely didn't really work out. They've just got another piece for their linebacking/defensive end. Is that kind of the biggest piece right now?
I think the defensive end rushers, that's going to be a question for this Patriots team. But again, I'm in that mold where Bill Belichick's going to find an undrafted guy that we've never heard of, and then he's just going to plug him in. Or does he change up his linebacking scheme? I mean, again, Bill Belichick in defensive schemes, The guy knows what he's doing. So again, I have the trust factor in. But if I did have to pick an Achilles heel for this team, I think it is the edge rushers. That's going to be a big question mark. And other than that, though, I'm pretty confident about this team.
Right, and the schedule is in their favor, at least at the beginning of the season. Obviously, the opening game on Thursday night against the Chiefs, you got plenty of time to prepare for that. And then you've got the extra time to prepare for New Orleans, even though you do have to go on the road. New Orleans will be coming off a short week as they open up on Monday night. So the schedule at least kind of eases them into it a little slower than normal. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll get over to the hardwood. Lots of talk on the Celtics and Cavs. Will that trade happen? What will happen with that? We'll be right back. You're watching YCN Sports Talk.